My next guest needs no introduction. Mr. Big Rig himself, Johny Hendricks, is joining me here on the program. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. And I got to ask you right off the bat, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was good. It was nice to sort of relax and get to spend some time with the family. That's always a plus for me. But other than that, I can't complain.
Good stuff. And we talked a bit about this off air. You're making the rounds this week with the interviews. You're a busy guy, for someone who doesn't have a fight coming up. But one of the things I wanted to talk about here is you recently hiring the services of weight management specialist Lou Giordano. And I got to ask, how did this all come together?
It came together, a guy, Brian, I've known him for a while. He was like, hey, after the last weight cut, I was just like, I need somebody. I don't know everything about everything. Definitely when it comes to weight cut, I know how to cut weight. I just don't know all the details that go into, trying to cut, because I'm still trying to cut, 15, 20 pounds the week up, right? And, after I failed to do that, I was like, okay, it's time for me to sort of buckle down and say, I don't know anything about this. And I know how to eat healthy, but obviously my eating healthy and clean, there's more to it. And he was like, well, I got this guy, Lewis, Nutrition, and he goes, I'd love for you to sort of meet him. I called him, met him. He came out here, and it was sort of perfect. I actually really enjoyed him. So did my kids, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, and I was going to say, flying someone out like that or someone, meeting them for the first time, some people would be skeptical, but obviously you trusted Brian enough that, you took his judgment. It was enough for you guys to kind of set everything up. I assume you didn't talk to any of his clients that he'd been previously working with before you brought him out.
No, I did not. What I did is I'm sort of, I guess the best way to say it is I don't really care who sort of some of the other clients were, because I'm sort of a special case, and the reason why I say that is because I like to eat. You know what I'm saying? It's not that I'm better than anybody else or this or that. I just love to eat, and I know my flaws. And with that being said, I know that I needed to approach it that way.
Yeah, and how nice is it, being able to work with Lou? I spoke with Lou earlier this week, and he told me that, the great thing about working with Johnny is I'm going to let him eat what he wants. As far as being able to eat the volume that you do eat, how nice is it to be working with someone where they're not telling you, hey, you got to starve yourself?
That's awesome. You know what I mean? It's really good. And not only that, but more than anything, it's the fact that, I have kids. I have kids. And with that being said, I have to spend time with them. I have to do these things. As a father, that's the most important thing I could ever give my kids is me being around. And if that means me being around and going to Sonic and all those other places, then guess what? That's what I'm going to do, because that's what I want to do. And that's sort of the way that I've always sort of tackled my weight loss and my off season, is that my kids sort of run my life in a sense, and I enjoy that.
Well, that's great. Now, out of the time you spent with Lou when he was down hanging out with you, what did you kind of learn the most from him and his philosophy that you're kind of bringing going forward as far as the work you're doing?
Just sort of what you said, is that it's a new philosophy. I like it. I like the fact that he's saying, I have to text him everything I eat, and even me, I'm not perfect with that. I'll be the first one to say, but I will come back and say, hey, I'm not going to lie to him, because I know that I have to tell him everything and anything I eat, so I'll sit there. If something happens, I'll be like, hey, this is what I ate, this, and this. And that's really helped me out with sort of tackling this weight cut, or getting my weight down, and which, it's already under 200. I'm pretty excited about that. And it's only going to get better. That's really what matters to me, is that everything that I do, I'm starting to see a result of it. And whenever I start, calling them and saying, hey, right now we're still eating out. We're still doing a lot of things. So the day that I call them and say, hey, I'm which is this next week, this weekend, my last travel date. And once I do that, then that's when I'm going to call them and say, hey, I'm done traveling. It's time for me to start cooking at home. And I'm going to call them and say, hey, this is what I cook. What can I cook with it? And start really getting a better game plan and getting my weight down even faster whenever that happens.
Now, you mentioned, texting him your meals and things along that nature. What's some other homework that he's given you sort of going forward, day-to-day things that you need to be doing that you can kind of tell us? Because obviously you don't want to say too much because, this is kind of a nutrition strategy.
Realistically, it's a lot of things that it's timing. Everything's timing. A lot of stuff is timing. So doing this, taking this stuff, and doing that, everything that he's done is like, man, he like I said, sometimes he gets mad because he wants to know when I eat every time. So like if I wake up at 7, I'm not thinking, hey, make breakfast, text Lewis, and then move forward, right? I'm sort of just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm up at 7, I went to bed at 2, make breakfast, drop my kids off, come back, and then I start my day, and then all of a sudden I'm like, crap, it's 11 o'clock. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I ate this at this time. You know what I mean? And I'm going to get better at that. It's just, that's probably my biggest downfall, is that the mornings. The mornings for me is that most of the time I'm just like, whatever. You know what I mean? I just wake up, do my thing, and then leave.
Yeah, and doing the daily stuff, I mean, this isn't just like a few tweaks here and there in your daily routine. I mean, this is a lifestyle change to a certain degree as far as what you're eating and your habits of, texting him. It's a lot for someone to undergo, but it seems like you're very open-minded about it and very positive about it going forward.
That's it. Here's the thing. I want to make weight easy, okay? And I want to do everything right. And now that I finally have somebody that is like, I'm sitting here going, hey, we're 40 minutes from home. I'm getting hungry. My kids are getting hungry. What can I do? And he'll be like, all right, well, this, and this. I'll be like, awesome. All right, whenever I get there, I'll text you and say, this. And he'll say, okay, well, you just tell me which place you're going, and I'll tell you what you can have. And that's sort of nice because I'm not restricted to have to be at home or take a meal somewhere, and then hopefully that you can find a gas station, because I'm starting to find out that it's hard to find gas stations that have what are they called?
Like healthy
microwaves.
stuff?
There you go. No,
yeah.
Microwaves.
Oh, microwaves. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as when you plan on seeing Lou, obviously you guys do a lot of communication through the phone and stuff. But is there any plans for him to come back out and see you, or just going forward, it's just like daily texts and phone calls and things like that?
As of right now, I sort of like it, being this way.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it's building up a trust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Between both of us, and I'm starting to see what's happening. He's starting to see that things are going better for me, and that's the way that I like I said, that's sort of the way that I want to keep it going. And the more we build this trust, and the more we do it, whenever he comes out again, it's just going to make it that much easier.
Now we got to talk a little bit about obviously what's next for you as far as your next fight. We all know the news. You announced it on MMA Junkie Radio. You're going to be leaving Team Takedown once that contract expires. I know you also have another child on the way, so very obviously a bit of a delay as far as when you're going to fight next. Do you think you're the most patient person in MMA? Because I'm even going to go back to when you were supposed to get the title shot against George St-Pierre. You're a guy that's really had to bite his tongue in a lot of situations, and in this case, obviously the contract stuff, something you didn't anticipate. Would you say that you're the most patient person in MMA?
I don't know if I'm the most patient, most laid back.
Yeah,
probably.
Okay.
Probably. Because here's the thing. Everything. I guess the way that I look at it, everything has its purpose. Everything has its timing. I'm in somewhat control, of what I can do, but I'm also, I look at it as I'm not. For every positive, there's a negative, and for every negative, there's a positive. And right now, I'm sort of figuring out which is which. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's important because whenever I start this next adventure, I want to make sure that I am moving in the right direction to get back to where I want to go, where I want to be, and that's really where my head's at, is get back, be strong, be better, and move forward and have the people behind me that, that are sort of seeking the same thing. And I can't say that, Team Takedown's been behind me, and so, like, realistically, I can't say anything bad at all about them. It's just time that we sort of went separate ways and, move forward.
That you have, and how do you find yourself, staying positive and staying motivated, especially when you know that you're not going to be able to fight for a little bit. There's the upcoming title fight between Condit and Lawler. You're kind of just sitting on the sidelines, but I'm sure you found a way to kind of just keep things simple and day to day, and also positive. I think that's a big thing, right?
Yes, staying positive, definitely huge. Definitely huge in this adventure, in this way that the world has sort of turned for me. And right now is, I'm still training. I'm still doing everything that I normally do, which is good. I got my strength conditioning coach. I have my boxing coach, Tony Cabela, at Reyes Boxing Gym in Fort Worth. I have, like I said, my strength conditioning coach. He is he's ranked number 8 in the strongman, and he's won the last 3 years in Texas. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to get where I have, I'm starting to form a team that is, I believe that can put me back just as good, if not better.
That's great to hear. Now, as far as your next opponent goes, obviously, I know you said that, you'd like it to be Tyron Woodley, but are you kind of just open to whatever as far as, once the cards fall, as far as the timing of when you come back and everything? I guess you're kind of open to whatever. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't sit here and say, yeah, I'd love to fight Tyron Woodley. I was sort of excited about that fight. But I can't sit there and say, I only want that fight. I'm not that type of fighter. I'm the guy that sits there and says, yeah, this is going to suck, but fight whoever. Like I said, this is a while back, is that I'm not going to sit there and wait anymore. As soon as I figure this stuff out, that's the only thing holding me back. I'm ready to fight. I've been training. I've been doing everything I need to do. The only thing I need to do is as soon as I'm released, is move forward, get it done, and get a fight. Which I've talked to Joe Silva a couple times. I have what I need. Like I said, I've been training, I've been running. My weight's coming down like I want it. And once I find out who it is and the light at the end of the tunnel. Because for me, it's not just about training. It's always been about the fight, because the fight for me is always the best part. I don't know why, but that's sort of the icing on the cake for me, and lets me get to prove, did I do everything right, and am I getting better?
Absolutely. Really appreciate you joining me here on the program. Just got a couple more questions for you just quickly. Your gut feeling, who do you think wins between Condit and Lawler? Is that a fight you've looked at yet?
Yeah, that's a fight.
Oh, still there? Hello? You still there?
Yep. Okay.
No problem.
I got to go pick up my daughter. Yeah, I've looked at it. I've thought about it. I think there's two ways this works out. One, Condit tries to stay in there and bang with Robbie Lawler, and it could, I fought Condit. He can hit, and so can Robbie Lawler. But I have a feeling that you're going to see a Carlos Condit not trying to win fans, but win the belt. You've seen him in a couple of title fights where it's nothing pretty, but it gets the job done. And so, like I said, I think that's the Carlos Condit you're going to see, and the next fight is sort of going to be the same way. Is sort of going to be, I think that if he wins, he's going to try to do everything he can to hold on to it, not try to fight and get a knockout, if that makes sense.
Interesting analysis. I like it. My last question for you here, your gut feeling, do you think George St-Pierre ever comes back?
No, I don't. I think the reason why he even thought about coming back, and some people are probably going to sit here and say, oh, Johnny's arrogant or Johnny's this, is because he found out that I might be going 185.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because realistically, other than me in the division, I think he can walk through almost everybody, and I'm the only one that, I see, even if you watch the Lawler fight and Roy McDonald fight, that was a great fight. But George St-Pierre is going to get those takedowns. You know what I mean? The way that he does and the way that he closes stuff, and that's why I've always said, you can't take away what George did. You're never going to be able to replace a George. So I wouldn't even try. You know what I mean? And he needs to sort of, and you see this a lot, that, whenever they get out of retirement, that, they think they have that fire lit again, and it's only kindling, and they get back in there and they start training, they start doing all this stuff, but they're locked into a payday or whatever it is. And by the time the fight comes, they don't want to do it no more, and so I'd much rather people leave and still have the concept that George St-Pierre was this amazing fighter, which he was, and retire like that, because, like I said, you've seen it where older guys have came back, and by the end of it, you're just like, man, I hope he can get this one win and then he can retire and be done. You know what I'm saying? And that's sort of the way that I look at it. I know he can come back and he can do good. You know what I'm saying? I know he can. But can he do everything? And once I get, I'm just looking at it for myself, is that I want, if I was going to fight George St-Pierre, I want the best George St-Pierre there is out there. You know what I mean? I don't want a guy that's coming back from retirement, thinks that he has it, he wants it that much more, and he gets halfway through it and is like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then you can tell him the fight, he's not there. So that's the only thing that I would say.
Very interesting take. Johnny, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on the program. It's very much appreciated. Just remind my audience where they can find you on social media, and give any shout-outs you need to. The floor is yours.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for bringing me in. And where you can find me at is Johny Hendricks on Twitter. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And thank you to the fans. I have some loyal fans out there. I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to get back in the octagon and prove myself, not only them, but also the people who have hated on me and all those kind of things.